Hi there, friends, and welcome back to the Psychedelic Art Exchange's YouTube home. A few months ago, we came on here to talk about our family history and our lives through the lens of the Grateful Dead as we honored the 30th year since we lost Jerry Garcia. This past weekend, we lost Bob Weir, and we knew that we needed to create space to honor his life and legacy. And so, in the spirit of that, we wanted to continue the discussion about the importance of the Grateful Dead and Bobby specifically in our lives. While we usually come on here to talk about items that we're auctioning, and we'll definitely get to some of that, we want to use this video primarily to honor Bobby as best we can.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, we have a couple of Grateful Dead items in the sale. The most notable of which is the '72 Academy of Music poster, and it was from another magical period in the band where they opened for Bo Diddley. They were Bo Diddley's backing band, and this, I mean, the highlights of most of our auctions end up being Grateful Dead posters for good reasons, and there's a couple of offerings in the sale. But as Katie said, we have something bigger to talk about, and yeah, we lost Bobby. And Phil within like the same year, so
Yeah.
and so we want to take this space to reflect on Bob in our own personal reflection, for whatever value that is. It's so many people have come out this week, and I've seen so many amazing memories. And Billy's was great that I read today. Mickey, Trey, everyone. I mean, Neil
Yeah.
Young. Everybody's come out. The woodworking has something to say, because Bob really was like a lovable character, and really, really hardworking musician, like endlessly, tirelessly, like his motor was running up until the end. And personally in this story, had Bobby not kept this scene and culture kind of relevant, she would not have had the opportunity to to be a second generation Deadhead. So
Yeah.
all of this, yeah, I mean, what words do any good? He was a joyful individual, a real Californian, like really stuck in like the most charmed life ever. From my perspective, I mean, grew up with Cassidy and Kesey and was a prankster for life. He was always, you know, fun, loving, and up for the party. I mean, he was the front man, and that's a tough role, and he played into it, and he played over it, and he was, but to see his whole trajectory, it really is, powerful to see, his importance culturally, musically, personally.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I loved from, I just read Billy's tribute to him, and he was like, oh, one time he humbly called himself the greatest rhythm guitar player of all time. And I was just like, well, yeah, everyone knows that. Like that's truth.
I mean,
As a musician, I'm always wondering, I would pay a lot of attention to his guitar playing when I watched Dead and Company shows, because like, what is he ever doing? He's never doing anything that makes any sense to me. It's always very special and interesting. Um,
yeah, well, he had to take that role. First of all, not that, when he first took the job, he didn't nobody understood what Garcia was to become, but there was always something magical, and in that relationship, that sort of fatherly relationship. But yeah, how did he fit in with that tremendous talent? And what he did, he was playing all of those jazz chords. He was listening to McCoy Tyner and the what, Charlie Christian, and all the I mean, he did his homework. He was, I still contend the Grateful Dead was a jazz band. They just fit it into a rock and roll context.
oh
But
yeah, absolutely.
but so yeah, and he he was, again, it was a how do you hold up into that. And Bobby did a great job. He was, he was fun and entertaining. And he at some point when Pigpen died, he carried that whole vibe, and he really, was, personable and goofy. And we even, we made fun of him back in the day. We sort of
Well,
ribbed him like a brother. But
yeah,
when he showed up with the rabbit ears on Saturday Night Live, that was like, and the Daisy
the Daisy
Dukes
Dukes.
and
Yeah.
the spray, my God, the spray into the audience with the
He
lights with his
was
saliva. He could cover more
spitting.
territory with his spit than anyone I'd ever seen, and yeah, we'd all meet in the bathrooms during the cowboy songs because it was like every night, and we were spoiled bitches and we're critical because we saw so many shows. So
Oh, I mean, even in my time, I mean, going back to what you said a few minutes ago, like to me, as someone I was alive for 2 months while Jerry Garcia was alive, so really not at all. Bobby was the dead to me because that's all that I ever got to see. And whenever we would go see Dead and Company, or we went to GD50, which we talked a lot about in our previous video. We would laugh so hard at like Lost Sailor. We'd be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
yeah, no, well,
Um,
I mean, with me and my buddies too, because we chose to go to every show, and at
Days
one.
between.
Oh yeah, I mean, but still, his repertoire was brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
and playing in the band, that was a whole structure. The other one, that was all so much of the Grateful Dead structure, and yeah, there's. But he took it well because he was up for it, and he was that same guy. He was the
yeah,
most relatable member of the band, at least to me, and he was
yeah.
also the most accessible. The one opportunity that I had to, sit and chat with him was backstage at Merriweather. Was Bob and Rob, and I think Michelle Shocked opened for him. Anywhere there were tents backstage. There wasn't even a green room, and I remember he was so, um, I was kind of like in awe, and he was so relaxed, and he was talking about cycling and exercise and stuff. That was who he was. He was into health. He was this macrobiotic. He was into playing flag football, everything. Bobby was like a California guy, and he was he again, a charmed life.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that's come through with all of the tributes I've seen is, it's really wonderful when one of your heroes passes and all you see is just joy from everyone talking about him. And everyone mentioned, so yeah, he would talk to me about health and meditation and all of these things, and he was just so authentic and so humble, and just like, it didn't seem like he was one of those people who got famous. Well, I mean, he's basically was famous his whole life, but you know had any kind of ego about it. But he did really believe that the thing that I keep seeing is that he was like, we if we do this right, this music will live for 300 years.
Yeah, but you talk about his authenticity, and that's really kind of what you got from him. He,
Hmm.
and it was never a put on, and even through all the years, he really was that front man, and he did, yes, and this is not negating anything that Phil did since Jerry died, because that musically was great, and there were some
Oh
of
yeah,
the most transcendent moments I've had. But Bobby kept this culture front and center, and
yeah.
it kept it appealing to a wider range of fans, and bless him, it's and he was a good time. He was into the party. He was into the same thing that attracted us to the band, like good times, good friends. He was all into the mystical shit that stuff. Whatever. Yeah, it's
You can curse on YouTube, that's fine.
I know, but I don't mean to denigrate that kind of thing. Thing. He was turned on, and he was at the center of it. And the Dead were turned on. They were tuned in with Ram Dass and Joseph Campbell and all of this thought that that was like the band, sort of you know without a net.
Yeah, and I am just endlessly grateful that I had, as I said, the opportunity to, you know, bond with my family at this like new incarnation of Dead shows over the last, 10 years. We got to see them at the Sphere. I, went on a trip with my mom after I graduated college to go see them in Colorado. It's just, I got to experience a fraction of that, and it was really just like, I live really far away from my family, and it's always been like a way that we can come together. And I it's hard for me to, accept that in its current form is kind of over. It's been a lot to process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, with Bobby, it's definitely the original train has driven into the station, but as we've seen, this thing's bigger than any of the original players. And look at the price of Dead posters. They're keeping this poster business relevant. Big Brother posters aren't really selling for what they used to, but the Dead are, still a thing. And man, mm, and who's really, I mean, many of them are leaving. I mean, we've still got Yorm and Jack, thank God. And, I mean, but from that, from the Bay Area, from 65, that freshman class is, graduating to the
Well
big one. Yeah.
deserved,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I mean, this conversation wouldn't be happening if not for this band, clearly. But whatever. All my friendships, my marriage, all of this thing came out of this. This thing that drew me from the age of 15, and I couldn't resist.
And it's definitely not going anywhere. I mean, I think 300 years is underselling it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, there's too much money on the table for this thing to die. I'm just saying that's like, oh my God, it really was a multi-million-dollar, holy crap, what it's become, and
Yeah, especially in the last few years, just in this late stage capitalism that we find ourselves in. I mean, this shirt costs like $60.
I know it's yeah, it's a thing. So again, it's Bobby will always be with us, and his posters will always be with us, and this auction will still always be a Grateful Dead auction, pretty much. But I do have to put in a little bit of poster news because it's highly important. My friend and colleague Scott Tilson runs an auction at artrock.com, and he has two items in this current sale that ends tomorrow that I've never seen. I didn't even know one of them really exists. The Hongo Ishii handbill. It's a deep dive for really deep collectors. But there is a Trips Festival poster that's one of the rarest Grateful Dead items that there is. And the Trips Festival really was the kickoff of it all. And think of Bobby, how old was he? He was like 17 or whatever in the heart of this, and it just going through all. I mean, what a life! You look at him there. Look at him, Playboy After Dark. Look at that. I mean, just think of that guy. What God, we love him. Anyhow.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion, and obviously we'll put the link to that auction and also our own auction, which is the January mega sale. It's going to be open until Sunday, January 18th at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. The music never stopped, and never will. Thank you for being here with us. Bye.